Forward looking. Lay it off. Touchdown! Patrick! Ariel sets it in. Off of Gristle. Made it to Elliott. Oh, Julian comes in. A spectacular finish. Philadelphia.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And unfortunately, the Philadelphia Union lose to Inter Miami by a score of 2-1 down in Fort Lauderdale. And last night I got to be a part of AAT Sports across the pitch with José Nuñez and Jillian Albany and Kyle Albany from the one team we're on, as Mike Pereira was away sick. And so got to host that show a little bit last night and looking at myself on the camera, which feels so weird. Like, I'm not as red as I was last night. And maybe tonight's guest can confirm that or not, because it's none other than José Nuñez. Jose, how are you? And this is super weird asking you. I mean, I don't look as red, right?
You do not look as red as you did yesterday. Yesterday you had it was pretty obvious you had like the raccoon eyes from your sunglasses, your Oakleys. Today you look better. I don't know if it was a mixture of exhaustion plus sun, but maybe 2.5 hours up in the air, elevated in a pressurized cabin, maybe settled your face a little bit. Who knows? But glad to be here. Thank you for helping host yesterday. I mentioned it. I was waiting for the editors of MLSsoccer.com to let me know what the story was. And once I got it, I just had to go run with it so it can be done. And I appreciate you sort of taking over while I was listening to Javier Mascherano, which is, for those that are not aware, the man speaks English, but chooses not to talk in English during most of his press conferences. So it was sort of a hearing him in Spanish on one ear and then sort of keeping an eye on you and Jillian, who also thank you so much for jumping on in the right ear in English. So it was just a lot going on. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And I think you're right. I was probably a little bit exhausted. Walked 14.1 miles yesterday on the beach in 8 hours, and not straight 8 hours. You know, I'd stop here and there to get something to eat and everything, to sit down and everything. But yeah, it was nice being in the Fort Lauderdale area over the weekend, Friday through, well, really full day Saturday, and then fly back Sunday. And man, I'm super exhausted. And we had talked last night after the show. I was like, I'll let you know if I'm going to do the podcast. And I'm like, I am just so tired. And I'm so thankful about, I'm going to Denver in the end of May. And I'm like, I'm so glad I changed my flight back around 2-3 o'clock. I'm like, I don't know why I always schedule my flights first thing in the morning, going down. Why that makes sense, because you want to get to the destination, but then coming back, it's like, why do I do this? Getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it sucks. So yeah, super excited to go out to Denver, but a great trip in Fort Lauderdale. I'll talk about that a little bit later for the show. Kyle says, let's go O's. And kind of hoping, let's go O's. Kyle Adley Rutschman, kind of wishing, Jose, that you would have wore a Phillies jersey. The Phillies, do they play tomorrow? I'm sure people in the comments can comment.
They sure do, and I will be at the stadium for the opener. I gonna see my very, very, very good friend Oscar Budehen ahead of the game and spend some time with him and just get to hang out with him for a bit before he goes. And I can't believe I'm so friendly with the Spanish voice of the Philadelphia Phillies. So excited to be there. My first one ever, despite being at the Phillies at this point, probably, if I was counting, like close to 3 digits in terms of games. So really excited to be there for my very first ever home opener.
Eric says, me too, Jose. Maybe I'll run into you. Wow. I mean, I was on Battered Herons on Thursday, I think it was, and their comment section were like trashing Chris and Solana and myself for talking opening day baseball. And it's like, who doesn't love baseball? I know people in this comment section love baseball. It's why I'm wearing this home opener for the Orioles tomorrow. And you guys, the Phillies played down in Nationals Park against the Nationals, 4-game series, 3-game series, something like that. And now, it's cool that you guys open up tomorrow at Citizens Bank and the Orioles open up in Camden Yards. Kyle says, go Giants. And what an oddball, Kyle, you are with these teams all over the place. But I mean, this is great. The baseball season, the soccer season, what a wonderful time of the year. 2 great sports. And Looking forward to a wonderful MLB season for the Orioles and the Phillies. And I was hoping last year that those teams would meet in the playoffs. But the Orioles, like they've done the last couple of years, always choke in the first round of playoffs. So maybe things change this season. But let's go ahead and switch topics to why everybody's here, and that is Philadelphia Union and Inter Miami last night. Like I said in the intro, the Union fall 2-1 to Inter Miami. Union have a 4-2-0 record, 12 points. Second place in the Eastern Conference, have lost 2 out of the last 3 games, Jose. Before we get into the starting lineup, the substitutions, the many chances I should add, Chris Donovan has been a hot topic on social media for people. I guess just your overall thoughts going into this game. The big question was, will Lionel Messi play against the Union? Javier Mascherano, the Inter Miami manager, had said on Friday it's looking likely that he could feature in some capacity against the Union, and he comes in as a second half substitution for Miami, scores a second goal, the game-winning goal, and you got to write about him for MLSsoccer.com.
Yeah, I sure did, and it was a little odd. I don't often talk about many clubs outside of the Union. Obviously, if there's a Union connection, I sort of hone in just out of interest and the way my dumb brain works. So to have an assignment recapping a Union game, but not focusing on the Union specifically was a little odd, but honestly, well deserved. I know we're doing sort of big picture here, but it's unbelievable what the little Argentine can do, especially when he does it within 2 minutes of coming into the game. And maybe it's fair to say broke and rebroke and broke one more time Jan Glavinovich's ankles with that move when it happened. It was just sort of an unbelievable switch and flare of the hips to put him on the ground, and that angle to beat Blake, who if this would have been the goal that Blake conceded during Leagues Cup from Messi, I would not have been mad. But of course, Blake got beat by Messi from what was like 40 yards last time around, or that one time around. But all in all, man, it's, as I put on sort of the tweet for our get together tonight, like the Union lost, but it wasn't without a fight. And unfortunately, that fight could have and maybe should have, and it's maybe not fair to say should have, because Miami earned it, but how many chances Philadelphia had, or we're also missing the league leading in a 3 or 4 way tie, a sister in terms of Kai Wagner. So you get him back, and that's a different universe, but you get him back. How much of a difference did that make? I don't know. All in all, I wasn't too mad with the result, but I was also kind of left disappointed that there wasn't at least 1 point going back to Subaru Park for this weekend.
Yeah, it does feel like there was a point up for grabs for the Union in that game. I know Bradley Carnell said maybe we could have had 3 points in this game, but I do think a point would have been well earned, well deserved for the Union against Miami with the amount of chances that they created. And this is on me and everything. I changed topics, and all these comments are coming in about baseball. John says it was $100 for parking at the Nationals game. That's insane.
Well, Todd, remember how much we paid for DC United? It was for one vehicle, it was $50 or whatever it was, $60. I can't remember.
60. Me, you, and Skylar Hoffner split $20 each. Yeah, and you were like, "We're never doing this again."
Yeah.
And then we found a cheaper parking garage. I think Jillian did, and we paid like $20 for like 6 hours, 7 hours or something. $100. What a ripoff. Dan says, I'm clearly in an alternate universe. Mandy says, and sometimes you get soccer in a baseball field, which is so funny because Jose and I are going to a baseball stadium in 2 weeks to watch soccer. Hoagie says, go Expos. Dan says, long live Expos. Canadian flag. So I guess we're finding out more and more about Hoagie. I guess she's Canadian.
Canadian dating a Brit, or engaged to a Brit. Congratulations, Hoagie. 300 and however many days or however long. So let us know when your wedding is. And I just want to let you know, Hoagie, I am an ordained minister. I've done 4 weddings. You can be the 5th. Let me know.
Yeah, let José Nuñez do. A man of many talents. Jillian says, damn, remember Kyle and I are the one team we agree on. Kyle is so weird with teams. Exactly. Michael here gets us back on track and says, body language alone, Messi was ready to play, sitting on the sidelines. And Yeah, I thought it was weird last night. I mean, when Robert Taylor scores the goal, they pan straight to Messi and so many cameras. I mean, I guess that's to be expected that the camera's always going to be on Messi. And I'm not surprised that MLS had asked you to write about Messi. I mean, look, he had that injury, a abductor injury strain, if I'm not mistaken, against Atlanta United 2 weeks ago. Misses out with the Argentina national team, doesn't play in their World Cup qualifiers, and then comes off the bench against the Union. And of course, Messi does Messi things, as you had written for your little tweet on Twitter. And I think that's 5 goals now for Messi in all competitions against the Union. Somebody go ahead and double check against me. I know that's 3 in MLS play, but didn't he score 2 against the Union in Leagues Cup? I know it was at least 1, but I thought it was 2. But regardless, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who Messi plays against. He's always going to find the ball at the back of the net. And I guess one thing that bothers me, and I was talking to Mark Kelkenberg about this a little bit ago, where it makes sense why MLS markets Messi. And then I would say number 2 is Cavan Sullivan. And I just wish the league would do a better job marketing other superstars in this league. You have Denny Bwanga, who's phenomenal out in LAFC. I think, Brian White's a pretty good story with the Vancouver Whitecaps, and I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but just ever since he's been with Vancouver, he scores goals. And you saw him get caught up with the U.S. squad for the Nations League this past window. Unfortunately, doesn't play. Probably should have. Probably would have been better than a Josh Sargent or all the chances that Patrick Algerman had in that game. But my point is, there's so many players in this league where I think, MLS could take a break or two and not really focus on Messi all the time, or Cavan Sullivan, because that's the one thing that I understand when I do guest appearances on other shows. People in the comment sections always ask me, Cavan, and I understand. I mean, he's a marketing ploy, but there's just so many more players than Cavan Sullivan on the Philadelphia Union. And Cavan doesn't even play for the Union. He plays more with Union 2 than he is with the first team. And maybe that changes someday. But all in all, I just think that there's a lot more players that could be focused on than just those 2 guys. I mean, look, into Miami alone, Robert Taylor, a Union killer, scores a goal. Fafa Picault had a chance to score in this game in the 5th minute. His shot goes off of the post. Segovia, the Venezuelan, phenomenal player. I think he's going to be the next player that goes for big money in Miami. But all in all, like I said, there's more players in MLS than just Lionel Messi and Cavan Sullivan. And
Sorry,
this isn't a shot at your employers, Jose. I'm not taking a shot at you because I know you write for the league, and you have had the opportunity. I think 2 weeks ago you wrote about Chicago Fire, and they're doing something phenomenal under Greg Berhalter. So I mean, you and I know it. People in this comment section know that there's more than just 2 players in this league.
No, absolutely. And to my part-time employer's defense, is that we have the directive of pitching ideas, sharing ideas to the editors. More often than not, the editors sort of try to, collate everything that we're putting together. But we're not going to, if it would have been a 0-0 game between Miami and the Union, we frankly probably would not have written a story. But the fact that it was, the way that he came in and completely, I don't know. I feel like the game sort of tilted in a way once he came in terms of A, his goal, but B, that the way that he stole, what's it, Gazdag that he stole the ball from, and then like the sequence that led to Fafa basically almost breaking his leg against Andre Blake.
Yeah.
All that to say that it was, thank you. It was Indy. It was exciting, and that's what led to the story. But I also know that some of our peers in the Philadelphia beat writing squad, or corp, whatever you want to call it, also have editors who are also seeking the stories, because the reality is that, and whether you think it's unfortunate or not, it gets clicks, right? Like I'm thinking of, holy smokes, the SEO, the search engine optimization that the Inquirer's getting for asking about Cavan Sullivan and putting Messi within the same article, maybe 5. I haven't read it, but I'm guessing that both have at least a mention. Messi at least probably 5 times, and Cavan Sullivan probably at least 3 times. I would go ahead and think. So I get it in terms of the financials, but I also think that, MLS does a good job of like yeah, Jose, go ahead and write about those 3 players, two like the Chicago game, 2 players that score their first goals ever. And if you want to talk about Hugo Kuipers, by all means mention him, but you don't have to, because there's other stories. But if you want to highlight him, by all means do it. So like, yeah, I can see how it can get boring, and I know we make an effort to be different. But know that the league is also sort of trying to find the nice in between, because there are financial realities to it all.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Mandy says here. She says, I do think maybe there are some partnerships and brand deals that require X amount of Messi shots per game or something. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, all the eyes, MLS is never going to release the amount of people that sign up for MLS season pass. If they do, I'd be shocked. But you got to imagine that number has skyrocketed ever since Lionel Messi has joined this league. And a big reason why people are watching this league is to watch Messi. The league knows it. The people covering this league knows it. The fans know it. I mean, Messi brings all the attention. And I think the one argument, and we can go ahead and switch topics here, that fans want to see MLS do. And you've seen other national reporters report on this too, saying that they want MLS to really capitalize on this situation with Messi being in this league. You have the World Cup coming in 2026. Do people feel like MLS has done enough changing rules, elevating their game to the next level? To be determined. I do think we've seen a lot of young, promising talent coming into this league. But I do think, and I think you would agree, Jose, not to speak for you, but the U22 rule, we both love that. I think some of the roster rules could be elevated a little bit higher just to get more and more talented players into the league. And for me, I think the U22 deal, when MLS switched to either going 2 DPs for U22s or 3 DPs, 3 U22s, I think that's a great rule change. But I've always said, there should be a league minimum team should be required to spend. And when you have your CF Montreals, who had just fired their coach, and I probably should have put that in the news topic, because I do have a lot of complaints about Courtois getting fired. I don't think that he should have lost his job in Montreal. That's a terrible squad, takes them to the playoffs last season, but they're not spending a lot of money. I think they have 1 DP on the roster, and he's not even playing. Vacconi, I think it is actually. Vacconi from New England. He's not playing in Montreal, and yeah, it's a terrible fan base there. Vancouver is not spending a ton of money. We know the Union don't spend a lot of money. So, I mean, there probably should be a minimum that teams are required to spend, like in the NFL there is. But regardless, we're probably getting off of too much of a tangent right here. But all in all, just to say that there's talented players in this league. I understand why MLS covers Cavan Sullivan, covers Messi, because a lot of people in this league turn in just for those players. But at the end of the day, maybe we should do a better job, us covering fans in this chat, lifting up promising players. Ty Baribo had a nice story written about him by Charles Boehm. Is that his last name? Boehm?
Charlie Boehm.
Boom. Charlie Boehm, that is. Thank you. Really nice piece about Ty Baribo on MLS, a national featured piece. Sage Hurley obviously did an interview with Ty Baribo a couple weeks ago on The Dupe. And so there are good stories. Just maybe you got to dig a little bit deeper to pull those stories up. But let's go ahead and talk about it, unless you have anything to add, Jose. I don't want to cut you off.
No, you're good. I mean, I think it makes sense. I guess the term would be the having MLS have a basement in terms of spending, right? A basement and a ceiling, the way that they do. Just don't know what that figure is, and don't know that owners would also agree to it, right? If you need I would think that over 50% of them would be well in the clear of this number, probably closer to like 70%, but 30% that I don't know. It's I don't want to say a dangerous line. It's easy for us to talk about it because and suggest it because it's not our money, our wallets. But it's also sort of detrimental to the product in a way, right? When you see, again, like the dichotomy between the approaches, not saying that one's right or one's wrong or one's better than the other, etc. But like Lionel Messi subs in for Miami, Chris Donovan subs in for the Philadelphia Union.
Kind of 22 MLS Cup, right?
Gareth Bale goes in for LAFC.
Chris Donovan comes on.
Yeah, Chris Donovan comes on for Philadelphia. So, yeah, neither here nor there, man. We can move on to the game and talk a little bit more about this actually pretty exciting match when you take a step back and look at it.
Yeah, I do want to, but John has a great comment here. He says the real perfect storm is the 2020 CBA up, USL starting D1 and World Cup over, salary cap with floor ceiling, and just keep the 3 DPs. Yeah, I've totally forgot about that. The CBA being up, and God forbid we go into a lockout with the players. But I mean, it is interesting times ahead for MLS and the Players Association. Jose, I think maybe you're looking this up.
Correction, it is, and I knew this, but I
2028.
want to double check. 2028. It's not
And that's what I
2027.
thought too. So yeah.
2028.
Yeah, so I mean, look, that deal is coming up, and those negotiations can get a little bit dicey. Baseball's CBA is coming up, I believe, after the season, and a lot of talk, seeing national writers talk about, yeah, there's a real possibility because of what the Dodgers are doing that teams could be getting locked out. The season could be put on hold because of the Dodgers making a superstar team out there. But regardless, yeah, I mean, that's a good point there by John, talking about, just how the World Cup's over and America's went 100% in on the World Cup, trying to make this the biggest event ever. You have the CBA coming up in a few years, USL going pro rel. Yeah, I mean, there's there's a lot of good, pressure on MLS, I would say, and yeah, hopefully that makes the league better and soccer in this country as a whole better. But like you said, Jose, let's go ahead and talk about this game, starting off with the starting 11. So you saw Jacob Glesnes obviously keep his starting spot, with Jan Glavinovic also starting back-to-back games after he scored the game-winning goal the previous week against St. Louis City. We see Frankie Westfield start at left back because Kai Wagner, it was reported, or released, I should say, by the MLS Communications Department that Kai Wagner was listed questionable with an abdominal injury. And then Ty Baribo and Mikael Uhre both started up front. It's the 5th time that those two have started up top together. And I guess I'll start with the center back pairing, Jose, with Glesnes and Glavinovic. Surprised by that? Me personally, I'm not surprised that Jacob Glesnes kept his spot. I wasn't surprised that Glavinovic started this game just because he had a good game against St. Louis City the previous week.
Yeah, no surprises for me. If anything, I know you and I communicated ahead of the game and sort of piecing together what the lineup was going to be, and it's hard to say, yeah, well done, Jan. You scored the game-winning goal against St. Louis with our depleted squad. Go ahead and sit on the bench, right? Unless it would have been like a muscular fatigue. I know he's obviously coming off of injury from the St. Oh, he was coming off of injury for the St. Louis game. I was kind of thinking, maybe it'll flare up, maybe something, etc. And then he'll have to sit down with Owethu, who I'm still amazed only got a 1-game suspension for an aggressive act like that. Not that it was, a fist to the face, but obviously very, I don't want to say violent. You don't accidentally throw the ball at someone's face either. So, no surprises. And I know that there's some who are thinking, yeah, well, Glesnes was responsible for the first goal. It's like, no, it was just Barcelona players being Barcelona players. Like, it's Sergio Busquets and the way that he moves and passes the ball. It's tough to defend against, especially when you press the way they do. So no surprises for me in terms of the center backs on last night's match.
Yeah. And then we did see McConaughey eventually come into the game in the 89th minute, 90th minute for Frankie Westfield. I'm not sure I quite get that substitution there towards the end of the game, but yeah, I mean, I guess it is what it is. But Frankie Westfield, I just mentioned him, started at left back for Kai Wagner, an abdominal injury. I mean, depending on how bad this injury is, when I hear that, I don't think great news. And I think Kai Wagner had posted on Instagram, he was like, think positive or something like that when this news came out. But yeah, Kai Wagner is a player that you really don't want to see miss a significant amount of time for this team just because of how much he means to them. Tied for the lead with 4 assists, unless you count secondary assists with MLS. Kai Wagner has 5. But Kai Wagner missing last night, and I think that was a big miss for the Union. They couldn't go down the left side of the field like they normally would, having Kai Wagner send in those crosses. Frankie Westfield only attempted 2 crosses in the game last night from the left side of the field, And yeah, I think Miami knew that coming into the game. Let's go ahead and force the Union through the middle, keep them on the right side of the field, which we saw last year. Great combination play with Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harrell down that right side, because we would see towards the end of the season, Jim Curtin go with Alejandro Bedoya, Olivier Bizo, and then Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harrell. And I remember him talking about it. I forget what game it was, but he said, it's just the partnerships, having that chemistry with each other. That's why we make these decisions. And so you see Quinn Sullivan for this game flip over to the right-hand side just to keep that partnership with with Nathan Harrell on the right side. And we did actually see a goal, the only goal for the Union, come down that side of the field with Quinn Sullivan crossing it into Dániel Gazdag, who was playing on the left. But yeah, the Union were kind of forced to be one-dimensional in this game, to go down one side, because Kai Wagner unable to go in this game and not in the matchday squad at all.
Yeah, I caught wind of the injury Friday night, actually, while watching the Union too. I received a text message, and I believed it, and obviously was asked not to say anything, and except just for your writing and prepping, etc. So to me, that was interesting. As I understand it, I guess maybe he departed practice early, I think is what Jonathan Tannenwald had sort of quote tweeted on another reporter's sort of commentary on the injury or whatever. So there's that. So it'll be interesting to see what comes off of this injury, whatever that doctor's appointment was like, or the response from it, and in terms of, is this a long term? Is this a short term type of thing? I don't know of many abdominal injuries that are just a 1 week thing. I've never had one, but as I was sort of asking around, who knows? Maybe it's 2-3 weeks, maybe it's longer, maybe it's shorter. It's impossible to know unless the Union make it clear onto what's going on, and they have no reason to be completely honest with you. So I wish him well, but yeah, it was certainly felt that left side was just very silent, and kudos to Miami for forcing the right side in terms of, making the side that has not really scored this year have to do all the work. And of course they ended up making it happen. So you can't be too upset with either of the folks that stepped in terms of, Nate and Frankie. But again, you sort of wonder what if Kai would have been available? Who knows? You're muted.
Thank you. Mandy asked a question here. Do we think Frankie in for Kai over Isaiah because Isaiah played for the Union 2 match the night before, or is he just not up to par yet?
I personally don't know much about Isaiah. I've watched the matches and he looks okay. He looks perfectly appropriate for MLS Next Pro. I don't know, and I haven't been down to a practice yet this year. My work is just so busy with travel and just honestly work and life with having 2 kids, etc., that I don't get down to practice. So I don't know what those practices are like for him with the first team. If he's even joining the first team, I would think that he is a part of that. It'll be intriguing. This case, it would have been a tough ask to have Isaiah fly from where was it, Chattanooga? Is that where it was? Yes, from Chattanooga to Miami overnight and then start a game. I think that would have been a tall task, especially for somebody who, even though he isn't as, correct me if I'm wrong, Jillian and Kyle and anybody else who watches MLS Pro, that would have been match day 3 or 4 for MLS Next Pro. I can't remember. So
3, I think.
Yeah, for some Huntsville. There you go, Huntsville. Thank you, Jillian. It's a tall ask to expect someone who had the type of injury that he had last year to go ahead and start an MLS game after playing an MLS Next Pro game the day prior after that injury. So all around, I just don't know that he's quite there yet, physically and maybe skill wise. Who knows?
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is we saw Frankie play every single game, if I'm not mistaken, last year for Union 2 as a left back. Isaiah Lafleur coming off of that ACL injury, and just seeing that Frankie has the experience already playing MLS minutes, playing as a right back and everything. But that Coach Carnell has trust in Frankie, and so I think that plays a factor into it. Even though he's not a natural left-footed player, I thought he held his own. I think he did enough last night. I mean, attacking wise, yeah, not great. just because he's no Kai Wagner going for it. But defensively, I thought he held his own. I think he won 3 out of 4 tackles. I'm not looking at the stats for right now, but yeah, all in all, I don't think there was anything that really stood out to me that caused me to be too concerned with Frankie's play last night. But then the big one for me is Ty Barrero and Mikel Ua up front. I thought that this is a game that Bruno Damiani honestly should have started. A comment here from Dan says, truly needed to be Barrero and Damiani up top. No two ways about it. And yeah, we see Damiani start last game because of Todd Barrero away for international duty and doesn't even play for Israel during international duty. So he's coming in fresh, even though, it's long travel and whatnot. Comes in, I believe Bradley Carnell said the middle of the week, but he is fresh, leading MLS in goals with 6. And so, of course, Barrero was going to go into the starting 11. You look at the stats for Mikel Ua against Inter Miami, had 2 goals against them, had a goal last year, 59 seconds into the game. Yes, I know it was an error by Miami, but I do think that this is a game that Bruno Damiani should have started, and I think that's what a lot of Union fans would have thought as well.
Yeah, in terms of Barrero, I made the mistake myself, so I want to correct myself and also lend a hand to you. Barrero did feature 26, 27 minutes against, was it Estonia? I only know that because there's a comedian on Kill Tony that's the Estonian assassins, what they call him. So, he featured 26 minutes, which is still not very much for someone who's doing such an incredible job over the past year and a half. So I still don't get what the strategy behind that for the national team, but they're far smarter people than me in terms of tactical and what Barrero looks like against the Israeli his counterparts. But there is an argument to be made about Damiani going ahead and let's just start making paving the way for him to start getting that starting role, right? And talking with another MLS pundit whose voice you've heard on streams before, by the way, this person made the argument of it sort of feels like it has to be either Damiani or Ua with Barrero. And I asked him, why is that? And he really couldn't honestly come up with a reason. It just sort of feels like that's what's expected. But when you think about it, I've always pictured, and this is not a huge hit whatsoever at Mikel, but he's a north-south runner. He doesn't really give you much east-west when you think about the field and the way that he moves. But with Damiani, it is immediately far more athletic in terms of the movement that he has around the box. I know we're going to talk about his miss when he had the header that should have gone in, honestly, considering what it was. But that comes from super smart movement around the box, size, but also being able to, and it goes along with movement, but being able to shift around in the box versus Mikel being such a north and south type of runner who this is the one moment that's burnt into my brain from this game. It's Ua had that one chance where he went to just hit it with his right foot and completely scuffed it and it continued to go across the box. And I'm thinking there was literally no one in front of him, but I think at that point it was a story, or maybe it was Drake Callender. I don't remember, but there was nobody but the keeper in front of him. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the moment where it should have been. And of course, they had more chances afterwards. So yeah, I'm intrigued. Is this Orlando game on Saturday the Barrero Damiani bow, and this is where we go from here? I don't know, but yeah, there's an argument to be made that there should be a switch.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting though. You hear Bradley Carnell say it pretty much every week. I feel like he says, come Monday, it's a clean slate. No guarantees. We start fresh. And that's when you start to earn your spot in practice. And, I respect that. But at the end of the day, right, you've got to come up with your best 11. And I know you want to, keep these guys motivated and everything in practice, making them believe they have a chance to get into the starting lineup. But look, we're going to week 7. And you've got to start figuring out what your best lineup is. And yes, I think we saw 4 games into the season, Bradley Carnell played the same lineup. And I think part of that was because the Union were getting wins. They were getting results. But, Bruno Damiani, he was brought in to be the guy. He scores his debut goal against Cincinnati coming off the bench. Had chances against St. Louis City. If it wasn't for good goalkeeping by Ben Lut, Damiani would have had goals. This game, he had 2 chances and unfortunate not to convert one of those chances. But the one thing I like about him, and maybe the same thing can be about Mikal Ua and Chris Donovan, is they all get themselves in good positions. They all find the ball, and they may not be converting their chances, but that is what you want to see with your strikers. Finding space, connecting well with your teammates. And that is what you get with all 3 of those strikers. And the ball may not be going in the back of the net for them right now, but they're getting in good positions. And we'll talk about those missed chances here for a bit. Right here, Michael says, I'm ready to see a Baribo Damiani start. And he says, curious why Lukic was subbed off. We'll get to that here in a second, Michael. I'll start that. John says, Ua kept his head down and never looks up as he shoots the ball right at the goalkeeper. When he gets hot, he looks up. It's a good awareness there by John. It's a good thing to pick up where it's a flick one by Dániel Gazdag in the first half. Ball falls perfectly to Mikal Ua, hits it just outside the box with the left foot. First time shot right at the goalkeeper. And I saw some people say, why didn't he square that ball to Ty Baribo to his right? Why didn't he take a touch and get closer to the net? And yeah, just hits that ball straight at the goalkeeper. And
Good question.
it is. It is what it is. What question right here?
No. I'm saying that you can raise the question, or so you can ask the question. It's like, yeah, it's a good question why he didn't do that. Holy smokes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But the game happens so fast, and it's so easy for us to, go back and watch game film and everything, slow things down. And it's like, wow, how didn't you see this? Or this was so obvious. And you got to remember those cameras are at such a high angle and everything. When these guys are field level, everything looks a little bit different. So to give the players a little bit of an out, everything's not what we see at a higher vantage point with the cameras or in the press box or the fans in the stands. Eric says here, got to remember Bueno scored off the bench first game. Dude has talent. Absolutely. Michael says he believes that they were rattled by Messi, obviously. Starstruck. And isn't that what Jim Curtin said during League's Cup when the Union lost 4-1, that the players admitted that they were starstruck? You saw how many players go up to Messi before the game, wanting pictures. After the game, so many players wind up wanting to get his jersey, to get pictures and everything. And yeah, that was a pretty embarrassing look. But I do think that the Union aren't really startled by the fact that they're playing against Messi now. I don't think there's many teams in the league that are. It's just another game, right? And I know that's harsh to say for the world's best player, but I do think that we've seen a different mentality the last 2 games against Miami from the Union than that very first game in the League's Cup, where, yeah, that was a embarrassment of a game. But let's go ahead and move on to what Michael kind of talked about, and that was the substitutions, which was Indiana Vassilev won at halftime for Jovan Lukic. Bruno Damiani came on for Mikal Ua, Jesus Bueno, and Chris Donovan in for Dániel Gazdag and Ty Baribo, and then Aloethu Makanya for Frankie Westfield. And I guess we'll start with the first one there, Jose, with Lukic getting subbed off for Dániel Gazdag. For Indiana Vassilev, and Michael says he doesn't think that Dániel had a good game and was thinking that Dániel should have been the one that was subbed off, but it was Jovan who came off first.
Yeah, was with Lukic, I feel like this was one of the first games where, like, okay, he's down to earth, though you could argue, yeah, of course he's down to earth in a way because he's playing against former Barcelona players. He's playing against probably, this is either the best or second best team that he's faced against in MLS so far. I would say that either Cincy or Miami would be one, or a 1 or 2 type of, like moving back and forth in terms of, where they stand. But I felt like his passing was off. There were a lot of situations where he would do one very good action, offensive action or defensive, and then his passing was just off by a few inches or feet, honestly, or like it was behind somebody, or it was intercepted, or it was very conservative because he was trying to make up or maybe regain the confidence after a bad giveaway. So I could see why he was substituted, but when you look at the bench, it's kind of like, okay, well, there is depth there, but is this really the guy you want to take out? I need to maybe rewatch more. I didn't feel like Danley was terrible on the night. Could he have played better? I think everybody could have played better. But the only moment that sticks out in my brain is the play where Glesnes escorts Fafa Picault out of bounds and throws the ball at Danley. Danley has no idea that Fafa was still out of bounds, and then makes his way and steals it from Danley. So yeah, it was. I don't know. I personally probably would have kept Lukic, and he has given me no reason not to want him to finish or be very close to finishing. I think during, I forget which show, Todd, we were together on, and I think it was last night actually. This is the second time that he's been substituted so far in his history career. The last one was the 89th minute, so like barely a substitution. So I have no reason to think or immediately think that, yeah, he deserved to come off or it was needed. But I assume maybe it's also, and I don't know that Bradley Carnell will outright come out and say it, but you also got to think about his body, right? He's been playing a lot of minutes, and sure, he's not doing international ball right now. Maybe he'll earn that with Serbia, but this does wear on you on a weekly basis, plus practices, travel, etc. So I don't know. It is what it is. We'll wait to hear how he's holding up.
So this is what Bradley Carnell had to say last night on the second half substitutions, because I think both of us need a break. So Bradley Carnell talking about those changes at half.
Yeah, first we want to correct a couple of things through video, and we needed a little bit through the middle of the field when we had the ball, and it was just very tactical that to bring Indy on, so we could try and progress through the layers a little bit more, through the thirds a little bit more. And I thought we started tightening the screw. I thought we started to get some more turnover. I thought we, with the changes we made at halftime, there was a little bit more directness in our, proactive press and a little bit more on the front foot and a little bit more brave. So we corrected that. And then, then it was time to bring Bruno and Dono on. And that was the way we got momentum back in the game. And, I don't know how many chances saved off the line and what have you. So I thought what we did we did it, much better in the second half.
Yeah, and he's not wrong when you look at the stats. And I mean, it is probably a good segue for the next topic, but we're not going to go there yet. Where in the first half, the Union had 6 shots, and the second half, they had 13. And we'll talk about those numbers a little bit more deeply here in a bit. But I do agree that bringing on a Indiana Vassilev opened things up in the midfield a little bit more. I noticed he was playing a little bit wide on the left-hand side, and that gave the Union just a little bit more flexibility on that side of the field where you really didn't have that with a Frankie Westfield. And then obviously Bruno Damiani comes in and has a couple chances in this game, and you thought he would capitalize on one of them. And there was a span between the 60th minute and the 69th minute where Baribo had that free header. You had Nathan Herriel who had a header, and I don't even know what happens. He wins the ball and he like clears it out. It's like you're the one who's attacking it, and he sends it out for a goal kick. And then Damiani has a header where I thought he should have put that one on target. But yeah, I mean, I think Bradley Carnell, credit to him for noticing what was going wrong in the first half. You heard him a minute there. They changed it, and it did look like it actually played an effect with Union looking like the better team in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know that I would blame the substitutions for anything decreasing or them being completely wrong per se, but you also have to wonder, man, if all things remained equal, leaving Baribo in and leaving Lukic in, would Baribo have missed what Donovan missed, right? Like it's hard to tell, and that's obviously a dumb exercise to work through in reality, but like it goes again to like, yeah, the Union have depth, but is it real depth or is it just inch deep depth that like doesn't really get you too far? But it's, as Carnell mentioned, like it's quite obvious that once the substitutions happen, more chances were coming, but you also have to wonder how much that dealt with. This is not and I could be speaking out my butt here, but like this is not a very young, almost call them Barcelona, Inter Miami team with all the players that they have, right? With a soon-to-be 38-year-old, a couple of other mid-30s to late 30 players. So like the age of that team is not. I can't imagine that they're as young or nearly as young on average That's Philadelphia. So was fatigue part of it? Probably. Or was it just that the union finally figured it out? Maybe. So yeah, I have no more to say about the substitutions. It is what it is, and just got to move on.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I would say is, Jordi Alba is definitely a fullback that's throughout his whole career has been a really good attacker. I would say a better attacker than defender. And so he's always going to push up. Busquets doesn't have the legs like he once had. Suarez doesn't have the legs. Messi doesn't have the legs. And so you go out and bring in a Fafa Pico, and I think we talked about this one across the pitch last night. You bring in a Segovia, you bring in a Robert Taylor, players that are going to do the dirty work for you. They're going to track back. Yannick Bright's another player that's going to cover for Miami in the midfield there. And so, yeah, I think Miami, the way that they built this roster, they are smart. They go out and get players that have fresh legs that are going to go ahead, have no issues doing the dirty work and covering for those guys that just don't have the legs like they had once had it. But yeah, I do agree, Jose, that that we could probably move on from this topic. And I didn't realize we were at 45 minutes. We spent a lot of time talking about these substitutions and the starting lineup, but it's good. It's good. That next topic is the Union having chances. So I talked about, the Union out shooting.
My first second. Go on.
For a second. And for people who are going to hear that, I know we're on audio and on live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So you guys can see it. Yeah, Jose opening another one. But yeah, I mean, the second half and just this game overall, the Union had more chances than Inter Miami in this game, comparing 19 shots for the Union to Inter Miami 7, 3 shots on target for Miami, 6 on target for the Union. Union created 6 big chances in this game, and they missed 5 of them. That's really, really, really bad. And if I'm not mistaken, you had put out a tweet sometime, or maybe you had said something in a press conference, and Jim Curtin sneakily mentioned us missing. It was a tweet that I'm remembering. It was a tweet you put out, the Union leading the league in most missed chances, big chances missed. and Jim Curtin specifically mentions that during the press conference. It's like, you sneaky SOB. You're paying attention to what people say on social media.
His burner must be... I must. I would pay so much money for even if it's like off the record, just completely just me and him, my brain and his brain only, like to tell me just so many things that I want to know about the man, and sort of like, and one of them has to be which account's your burner, because I know you're probably out there liking, you're out there listening, reading, because that moment was one of those clear moments where like, you totally read this nonsense. Or obviously the Union PR team maybe do a good job of like briefing him or showing him or whatever, and that's fair. But like, he's out there listening. He's probably watching this and looking at our dumb faces and thinking like, yeah, wow, these guys are idiots. I don't know.
I don't miss these idiots asking me questions in press conferences. All I can remember is Jim Curtin just going in on me about me complaining about Quinn Sullivan playing as a striker.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's
I mean, totally night and day difference. Like, not a shot at Bradley Carnell at all, but it's like those two guys operate at a totally different level, where Jim Curtin would find himself going on just tangents during the press conferences. We're going on 20, 25 minutes with Jim Curtin just answering every single question, and sometimes not even answering the question, just speaking just to speak, just to give us a good soundbite. And Bradley Carnell's press conferences, they go for like 6-7 minutes. So it's just night and day difference. Miss Jim Curtin. Both of them, have their different personalities. Both of them have their different styles. But yeah, it just popped up on my head right there. It's like, oh yeah, talking about big chances. You had put out a tweet about that, Jose, and Jim Curtin mentioned it without mentioning your name in the press conference. John says he's Union Hawk. LOL.
The other moment, and I know we're like completely deviating from talking about, like, the other moment that sort of like clicked in my head of like, this guy, or two moments, this guy really listens or reads to stuff that like us low level ground beat reporters cover, was when he's like, yeah, I'm sure you all have seen the clip of Dániel getting injured in like international duty, like in such an obscure game that I can't imagine many people watch. I think I had clipped it. And then the other one was when he, and this one made me really, I was so happy. I almost wanted to cry when he mentioned bits and pieces of my interview with Jose Martinez about, like, I think it was during the the gathering at Union Yards when everybody was upset, town hall. And he had mentioned something like, yeah, players come and go. I mean, for goodness sakes, all of you heard Jose Martinez say that he wants to come here and retire again. Oh, come here again and retire. I'm like it was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like that was through me. That was through me. So like, I don't know, man. I miss the guy so much. And I'll never forget the rant about referee opinions and him going on about 2.5 men. What are we doing?
Or penetration without possession is useless or something like that. Calling
that's
LL
like
Cool J. Like, come on, so many great moments. Or look, everybody listening to the podcast knows the great clip that we have forever with Jim Curtin saying, yeah, not good, when he was talking about, I forget what game it was, Mikel Uwar's performance in Leagues Cup, I believe it was. That's literally all he said to my question about his performance. Yeah, not good. So, I mean, so many great memories with Jim Curtin, a lot of great moments. And, of course, they still they still pop up here on the podcast. But going back to this game, just the Union creating a ton of chances on the night. Like I said, 19 shots for the Union in this game. 6 of them were on target. They had 5 big chances missed. But I think there's still positives to be found in this game for the Union. I mentioned a little bit, players getting in the right position. The Union capitalized on Miami's mistake on the first goal, where you have Jordi Alba pushing a little bit high up. And so now that leaves 3 defenders in the back. Dániel Gazdag runs in between Fafa Pico and the left back, Ian Frey, who's a natural center back. And it's a great cross by Quinn Sullivan into the run of Dániel Gazdag, who has enough time to take a touch and then blast it past Usteri, the goalkeeper. And so, the Union had to pick their moments. They had to take advantage of these chances. And they actually had a chance too. You remember in the second half, Jose, where it's a quickly taken corner kick with Quinn Sullivan to Indiana Vasilev. And the moment that popped up in my mind was a few years ago in the Champions League between Liverpool and Barcelona, where it was a corner taken quickly, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then Liverpool go on and obviously win at Anfield. They go on and win Champions League that year. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if these players are thinking about, here we go again. We don't defend a corner kick. Yeah, it's a little bit different team, but we get caught out with another quick corner kick. And yeah, that was unfortunate that Ty Baribo couldn't put that header on target. And it is what it is. I think that would have made things interesting 2-1 with 30 minutes left to go in the game. Definitely would have gave the Union a lot more time than the 10 minutes they had with Dániel Gazdag scoring the 80th minute. But yeah, all in all, as much as it sucks watching the Union not capitalize, finish these chances, there were still positives. And a big part of that was players just getting in the right position.
Yeah. And it was a lot of that, right? If there's anything positive to get out of this game, it's the Union still created without having Kai. It's just that they weren't maybe quite there yet, right? In terms of like pinpoint accuracy with missing Kai. But it makes you wonder, right? Like what it could have been. And that's the most, I don't know, like that's to me the most harmful thing out of this game. It's like, oh man, like Miami has another one on Philadelphia, right? And what that does to players' mentality and psyche of like, oh man, we just can't beat Miami, right? And that's probably something that's very, very serious, right? The reputation carries out. And sure, players will tell you that they turn the page and they move on to the next game. But in talking to as many players as I have in my very short time covering soccer, like just off the books, off the record, like a lot of the players are like, no, yeah, man, like we don't forget those things. It's tough. And like I experienced it playing ball, like high school and very, small amount I played in college. It's like, you think about these teams and it's just like, yeah, that team's always good. It's always such a tough game. And we lose to them. They're just really, really good. And it's like, how good it would have been for this squad to not just beat Cincinnati early in the season, not just beat Orlando early in the season, but like the trifecta. And like, I'm not even asking for like Thanos's glove. Like, give me 3 of the Infinity Stones and put Miami in there. And like, I feel really good about that, but it just wasn't meant to be. And, like quick turnaround to now play Orlando again and maybe get the same Infinity Stone again. Like, I don't know. It's a tough thing to swallow, and what it, again, like I go back to like what it could have been.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go ahead and play the next clip of Bradley Carnell. I think this is the right clip talking about, the Union still creating chances in this game, and they could have came away with at least a point.
Yeah, I thought the game of two halves. A little bit passive in the first half, not quite what we wanted to do on the first half on the game plan. But yeah, credit to the boys for turning the page in the second half and making a game of it. And yeah, we give away two big moments and concede two goals. On another day, I think. We walk away here with at least a point, or could have been a walk away with 3 points. So a little bit frustrating. I think the guys knew there was a little bit more here tonight, but proud of the way they turned the page and gave everything in that second half. And I'm not sure what the stats are, but I think 19 or 20 shots away from home. Dominated in many, many phases and really enjoyed the game in the second half. So.
Yeah, and he ended saying, we dominated many phases in that game. And John says right here, the thing that he loved about the Union last night is they didn't stop fighting, and I can't wait for when Miami comes to Chester in May. And I think, that is a positive, right? And I think we talked about this on AAT Sports, Jose, where Nathan Harriel has a block in the 98th minute. Andre Blake comes up with a save against Messi in the 99th minute. They're still fighting. They're still putting the bodies on the line, because Miami could have wrapped this up and put it 3-1, but they didn't. And the Union even had a chance to tie it up with Chris Donovan. It's another header down the right side of the field with Quinn Sullivan putting in the service. Donovan wins the header, credit to him, but he can't put that on target. Has a chance in the 83rd minute, I believe it was, where, again, going down the right side of the field, ball winds up getting to Gazdag. Gazdag finds a wide open Chris Donovan, and his shot gets blocked. And so, again, we talked about the Union not having chances on the left side of the field because they didn't have Kai Wagner. But at the same time, they had a lot of chances on the right side of the field. Quinn Sullivan picks up his fourth assist of the season, or third assist of the season, because I don't count secondary assists. But Quinn Sullivan's looked excellent, I think, pretty much through 6 games this season. Created a lot on the right side of the field. Union looked good on the right side of the field. And at the end of the day, I think this is a result that Union fans shouldn't be too upset about. Yes, I know I'd started talking about the Union losing the last 2 out of 3 games, but there's a lot of positives. And even in that loss in Nashville, there was positives to take away. There was positives to take away against St. Louis, even though the Union only scored 1 goal, because these players are getting in the right position. And once these guys start finding the back of the net, and I wrote this in my match recap article, the Union are still in the top 10%. I think they're 7th overall in converting their shots on target into goals. 35% of the Union shots on target results in goals. That's really, really good. And I would be concerned if that number starts going down. But because this team's so good at getting themselves in good positionings, they're so good at finishing off those chances, I don't think it's time to panic and to be concerned yet. But that is something that Union fans should pay attention to. That's something I'm going to pay attention to going forward, seeing how many of these shots on target are the Union converting into goals. Because if you're just, shooting it straight at the goalkeeper, then, you're like, that's not a great chance, Mikel Uwa. You gotta pick a corner. Bruno Damiani having a header, Ty Bribo having a header straight at the goalie. You're getting in the right positions, but you want to see these guys finish off the chances. And through 6 games this season, the Union in 7th overall in MLS in converting those shots on target into goals at 35%. So, yeah, again, a lot of positives in this game. Anything for you to add there, Jose, before we quickly talk about Chris Donovan, since so many people on social media want to talk about him and blame him for this loss?
No, I think all I'll say is that I just saw the comment come in from Michael, and I wholeheartedly agree. I was far more concerned about this team after losing to Nashville than I am after losing to Miami, just because that Nashville loss just felt so uninspiring. And actually the same referee that blew those 2 calls, the 2 penalty spot kicks, one that was not given to the Union and one that was given to Nashville, also had some doozies for the Jamaica game during the international window. And just earlier against Portland, had a really terrible moment where Portland almost tapped the ball in. The keeper clearly gets his toe on it, and it deflects out of bounds for a corner, what should have been a corner. Instead, he gives a goal kick and just runs away, not listening to any player whatsoever. Like, he's in his own world. I'll have to send you a clip then, Todd. But like, I was far more upset about Nashville and how uninspiring that loss felt, especially for a Nashville team that's still very beatable, unbelievably beatable, versus Miami. That's Miami, right? It's always going to be a good game, at least through 2026 into 2027, when maybe Messi's gone and the rest of the squad leaves. So yeah, and this one they fought, and I often don't talk about referees, and I also don't often talk about the roughness of the game, because I get that being a professional, it's a completely different level than anything you and I have ever experienced playing soccer wise. But last night's game really felt like one of the most physical games I watched the Union go into in terms of I know I saw a clip of like Macania and Messi on the sideline for a throw in, and Macania, like, shoving Messi a little bit, and Messi not liking it, and like just like elbowing Macania, and then like 2 or 3 times, and then Messi running to the throw-in ball and like falling over. And of course, it's a foul against Macania. Never mind. I think anytime the ball was within 5 to 10 yards or whatever, 3 meters away from Redondo for Miami, like, that dude was just ripping shirts literally off of Mikel Ua's neck. Never mind, like, fucking elbows left and right. So like,
What
yeah,
about
man,
the
like,
challenge by Kamashki on Dániel Gazdag?
yeah, that one was I was actually really shocked that did not go to review. And so was Daniel, obviously, the way he responded to it all, and to the point that he pulled up his little sleeve. Yeah, there you go, Michael. Hopefully it was through DraftKings, over $5. You got a free code for MLS season pass, I guess the promotion is. But yeah, like, Daniel, clearly the recipient of a really, really bad foul. So all that to say that yesterday was a very, very rough game. And even by MLS standards, I was physical as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and quickly talk about Chris Donovan. We spent some time talking about it last night on AAT Sports Across the Pitch, so don't want to spend too much time talking about Chris Donovan. As you guys can see there on the little ticker, it says Chris Donovan's clock, is it ticking? Marcus Anderson, next man up, when healthy. And Bradley Carnell was asked about, bringing on Chris Donovan off the bench last night, and didn't really mention Chris by name.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, the way we set out on the 2 striker system, guys are going to fatigue. Guys were away with national teams and what have you. So I think it's just totally natural to bring more energy off the bench. And I thought, we created a lot of momentum and a new swing shift of, our dynamic approach, and a little bit more direct, a little bit more vertical. We had to push the game a little bit. So totally, I would say, normal to bring another striker when you're in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Guests on the show potentially, Jose. I hope.
Come and say hi.
But
It's Mr. Tom. Come say hi.
Raphael? Question mark? Yes.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Can you do your tough face? Are you a little shy? All right.
Let them know how many people are watching.
You don't want to know how many people are watching. All right. I love you. Go to bed.
I wonder how many people are watching.
You don't want to know.
Jose, 254.
254 people. You don't even know how to count that high. Go to bed.
244. 100.
Go. Sorry.
Yeah, your dad's famous. That's why everybody's watching, because of your dad. Definitely not me.
Go ahead. What were we saying? I'm sorry. Chris
No,
Donovan.
the best part of the show, watching your son join. I appreciated that. But yeah, Chris Donovan, I think Bradley's right. You bring off a striker off the bench because you're chasing a goal, so it makes sense why you bring off Chris Donovan. And he's your only other striker at that point off the bench. You're not going to bring in a Alejandro Bedoya, I don't think, when you want a big body. You're not going to bring in a Cavan Sullivan, or your other substitution would have been an Olivier Bizer. So yeah, he makes the changes that he needs to with Indiana Vassila, Bruno Damiana, Jesus Bueno, and Chris Donovan. But my argument would be, once Marcus Anderson's healthy, he played with Union 2 against Huntsville. I do think that we potentially see Marcus Anderson start taking some of this game time away from Chris Donovan. Yes, he should be commended for getting in right positions, but there comes a point, right, when you have 6-7 chances and you're not putting the ball in the back of the net where, hey, look, we're going to go to somebody else. Yes, good job to you getting yourself in those positions, but you got to convert them. And a lot of people are like, oh, Chris Donovan's not an MLS player. And I saw some comments last night say he's not even a USL player. And I don't know if I would go that far. But yeah, I do think the clock is probably ticking on these opportunities, on these chances for Chris Donovan. He's paid to score goals, and he's not scoring goals. And I guess the same argument can be said about Mikael Uhre.
Chris Donovan is a bit of an enigma to me, and sort of like Jeremy Raffanello, right? In a way, like, and let me explain before people listening are like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But like, the reality is that last year, if I recall, and please correct me, keep me honest on the chat, but last time he played with MLS Next Pro was, I think it was like the Atlanta game last year. And I clearly remember it because I think I was on a work trip watching it from a hotel in Chicago. And he scored a hat trick in his one and only game in MLS Next Pro last year. 3 or 4 goals. It was something unreal. So I feel like Chris is in a spot where he is clearly too good. And obviously that's an MLS Pro, and Next Pro side last year that had Frankie and and CJ Olney. Cavan wasn't there. He hit during that game, I don't recall. But the other characters that made that team so special for MLS Next Pro, for Union 2. But Chris Donovan seems to be in such a spot where maybe he isn't quite there for MLS, maybe. But he's too good for MLS Next Pro. So like I don't know where he goes from here. We all know about the infamous or famous, depending on how you see it, tweet by Fabrizio Romano at 2 a.m. announcing his deal. Like, obviously, later on, Chris Donovan made it known through a podcast that he did that his agent paid for the tweet. So, like, kind of comical to admit that. Or asked Fabrizio, in which I'm sure something was exchanged. I can't imagine it was a freebie. But I wonder where he goes from here, right? Like that deal happened when there was a different sheriff in town. Not Ernst Tanner wise, but Jim, right? Could Jim had Jim maybe swayed the conversation to keep him and made the argument to keep him. And I'm sure he's a great practice player to have and staff, etc. But like, you also have to wonder, like, man, could there be someone that can do a little bit more, or maybe can appear a little bit more and do more when given the opportunity? Because right now, like, you look at when Miami can sometimes bring in off the bench, and Javier Mascherano said it on his press conference, like Robert Taylor is one of those players who's been injured and has come off the bench from time to time. And like, he's putting in goals and putting in really good shifts. So like, you have to wonder, like, are there other players out there that the Union can go and pick off should they want to move on from a Chris Donovan in the future and maybe replace him? And this is not me speaking ill of the player. I know that there's many people who like him, one specifically that I can think of, and I know you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Vince, not to say any names, but Vince. But like, I just wonder where he goes from here and maybe what the outlook, because you're right, Todd, like, incredibly on point with your comment of like, you know, you miss one, that's one thing. You miss 6 or 7 chances where maybe you have to hit the back of the net or at least put it on net or in a better spot. If it's saved, great. If not, then like, whatever. You have to wonder, like, at what point does the leash become tighter and tighter and tighter until you have to make a decision? And is really Marcus Anderson the next man up? I don't know. We haven't seen him since he went into the doghouse from you know, coughing up the ball against Cincinnati that led to the Lucho goal. So like, that ended up winning the game for Cincinnati. So I don't know. I know we've this fan base and even us as press are like a roller coaster, or like we give ourselves like whiplash. We're like, oh, we have depth when, you know, the team has depth when the Union play against St. Louis. But then we go into, you know, this game, or the Union go into this game, and we as press are like, oh man, like, that's inch deep. The depth is not there. So like maybe we as press need to be more centered.
Yeah, maybe it's a fair point. But as we get ready to wrap this up, I can't leave not talking about my Fort Lauderdale trip.
Ooh.
And I can't leave talking about Blunder of the Week. And so, for people who did not see this last night, there's a tweet that ran out. I forget who put this out on social media, but it was a tweet of former NFL player Brandon Marshall asking Javier Mascherano, the head coach of Inter Miami, Messi or Ronaldo, and then he ends it with LeBron James or Michael Jordan.
Felicidades, coach.
Felicidades.
There
Okay,
you go.
thank you.
Okay. Felicidades. Brandon Marshall from I Am Athlete. I got a few rapid questions for you.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
You ready? You have children?
Yeah, 3.
You have 3. Okay,
I miss
great.
them.
In my house, my kids, they keep asking me this question. They say, Daddy, Ronaldo or Messi? And they ask me, like, so I ask you the same question, Ronaldo or Messi?
You don't need to ask. I think Messi is the greatest player in the history. Never will be like him. It's impossible. 20 years in the top, scoring, playing, and he's the total player. He can play as a striker, as a midfielder. Also, if you put him to defend, he is the best defender. I can sure, and I saw that. So at the end, for me, I don't have any doubt.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
I don't like too much basket, so I will not be there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And then he just gets up and leaves. He's like, I'm out. What was that question? But to Javier's credit, he turns the Ronaldo Messi question into an actual pretty good soundbite right there. And you had put this, Jose, in your MLSsoccer.com article, which I guess credit to Brandon Marshall for getting that response out of Javier Mascherano. But number one, what I would say is, would you expect anything less from Mascherano, who played on the national team with Messi, played at Barcelona with Messi, is his coach? They're both Argentine. Like, of course, all Argentines stick up for Lionel Messi. Like, what were you expecting with that question? And then you bring kids into it. I'm not quite sure what that has to do with anything. I don't know if, talking about, my kids asked me this. Does that draw? You're hoping that it draws a good response from Mascherano? I'm not quite sure. And so that was an interesting press conference. And I'm so glad, Jose, that you had brought it to my attention. And then I eventually saw the tweet on social media. And I got to be smart how I want to approach this, right? What I would say is I did indeed go down to Fort Lauderdale to cover this game. A lot of my trips that I arrange are for me to check out a new city, a new place, but a lot of that has to do with soccer. Going to a game and covering the Philadelphia Union. I do not care about speaking to Javier Mascherano. I do not care about talking to any of the Inter Miami players. But to deny away teams' press credentials, and shout out to the Philadelphia Union, because it seems like every single week there's so many press from the away teams there. They seem not to have an issue approving away team media. All these other stadiums, Chicago, DC United, New York Red Bulls, Colorado Rapids,
Seattle. I can say Seattle.
for you, right? I've never had issues with anybody else in this league but Inter Miami. And I get that, okay, star power, you have Messi there. A lot of people, whether it be locally or nationally, are applying because they want to see Messi. But my issue is, it sucks getting denied press credentials. But my issue is no communication whatsoever. how many calls, how many texts, how many emails does it take to get a response back explaining why you were denied? And if they would have laid out a reasoning, I would have been totally fine. But it's not even just me who try to reach them for a comment. I know Kyle and Jillian went down trying to get press credentials for this match, covering for the one team we agree on. They never get a response back. Somebody else reaches out to get a response back, and no communication. And again, I get it. They probably deal with so many emails a day from people asking questions. Can we talk to Messi? Can we talk to Messi? Can we talk to Suarez? I get it. But when you're a team of 4 PR staff and not a single person replies back to a phone call, to an email, that's really, really unprofessional. And then, no offense to Brandon Marshall, you have somebody like this coming in, I get it, a former NFL player, coming in and asking Messi or Ronaldo, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. And you approve somebody like that for press credentials who probably doesn't give a shit about soccer, if I'm being honest. And I know he does his own podcast and everything. I am athlete. I get it. I'm not going to question, is he a journalist? Is he not? But I don't think he gives a shit about going to cover Inter Miami on a weekly basis. He was there trying to get a soundbite, and that's it. And so not to have any communication skills at all, Inter Miami, Brandon Marshall are getting my blunder of the week.
Yeah, not good.
Not good at all. And so on the flip side, I'm so happy, and I'll talk about my trip here, right? That I didn't let this detour my thoughts, my feelings for the whole trip, because one Friday, my old co-host, people listening to this, Tyler Elliott, used to do the show with me when we covered the English Premier League, the UEFA Champions League, the London Underground. Shout out Jem Toygar. And we had a lot of fun doing that show. And so his parents, Mr. Art and Miss Joyce, I know you guys are watching this, they had moved down to Pompano Beach 2 years ago. It's been 2 years since I saw them. So I spent all Friday seeing them. And there was a really, really great time just spending the evening with them and them showing me their new hometown. And just, I'm reminded, the little things in life. And so I could have been pissed off, and I could have said, this is the worst trip ever. I'm never coming back down to Fort Lauderdale. But, I went down there and really enjoyed the beach, walking 14 miles on the beach on Saturday, getting sunburnt like we saw yesterday on Across the Pitch. And I really turned a negative into a positive. And so I enjoyed my time down there with Tyler's parents, Mr. Art and Miss Joyce, with Miss Joyce's mom, and yeah, just experiencing the new town. And again, thank you guys so much for the great time out. But yeah, into Miami, Brandon Marshall, I mean, that made the situation 10 times worse once this question came to light. What was asked?
I have expressed this to you, Todd, especially this year, where it's not lost in me how fortunate I am to represent the league, right, in some capacity with the MLS writing. For those that are unaware, my press credential for this year is through MLSsoccer.com, because why wouldn't I, right? Like, just being completely honest, and not through AAT Sports. So I will forever be thankful for AAT Sports, continue to, be part of their content and jump on where I can, etc., and represent them, frankly. So my experience with a lot of these PR groups, especially this year, has been unbelievably different than what it has been in the past, because of obvious reasons, right? They see MLSsoccer.com, whether it's low level like myself or someone else like Jonathan Segal, or some other guys who are on our editorial team. They see us and they're like, okay, yeah, we gotta get them in, right? They might write a story about us, like, they represent the league in a way, and I'm forever thankful for that. And I know I've worked hard, I've earned it, whatever. But like, I remember when last night when I went through that press conference and I'm sitting there, I'm just like, really, this? I immediately told you, and I could tell your face was just kind of like, you just can't win. And I don't know. I wish there was a better way to be vetted, or a better way to vet these people, vet people who go ahead and get these press credentials, because someone like you should have been in that room. not even in that room, in the locker room where, Erica and whoever traveled.
Imagine the questions for the players and everything, asking them how they felt, because we just talked about it for an hour and 10 minutes that we thought the Union played good, even though they lost the game. And so it would have been nice to get comments from the players to see how they felt after the game.
Yeah, we have no idea what they felt. I personally didn't ask for any players after that. I was obviously busy doing this. I don't know if other people. I haven't read the Inquirer's piece. I haven't read the Substack of other people. Like I typically, for those that again don't know my process, but like I refuse to read other writers' writing until I finish my own piece for whatever we're writing about, because I don't want any influences, and then I'll happily read everybody's and sort of compare and contrast, etc. At least I read specific people's because I like some more than other and trust some far more than others. But like, it's to me comical that like, man, you could have been there, right? In terms of like literally less than 20 miles, I'm guessing, from the stadium.
2 miles.
2 miles from the stadium. You could have been in that locker room asking questions of the Jovan, what was the communication between you and Bradley for that substitution? Or Jan, what was it like to be put on ice skates by your hero, right? Like asking some of these questions, maybe not in that cadence or in that manner, but like, asking questions that we are genuinely guessing about, and we could have had answers had Inter Miami had a better, honestly, a professional way to respond to you all. I almost wish I would have, and I would never do this, but like, I wish I would have applied and seen how quickly they would have responded to me versus you all, just to like make like a thought exercise. But of course, that's not. It's neither here or there, and I wouldn't do that because obviously I would only apply if I was genuinely going to go. So all that to say is that even though this game is growing and the biggest competition of the sport is coming to this country, there are many people who do good work that are interested in doing the good work for free or for very cheap or for free. And the league is still not interested in finding a way to making it happen. It's really disappointing. And I know, we don't know their workflows. We don't know what their inboxes look like during some of this, busy period, et cetera. But you have to think that now what is this, year 2 of the Lionel Messi experience? Like, there would have been more done in terms of, like standard operating procedures, like that this wouldn't be something that just goes completely left unanswered until honestly left unanswered by Inter Miami. And I'm not even sure if Philadelphia ever got back to you in terms of help. I don't know. And I don't think it's really relevant, but nonetheless, like you would think that there would be a better way to do away with situations like this. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but it's because I know you do good work, and other people that do good work that could have and should have been in that room. And it's just unbelievably unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And again, I just want to stress, and we'll end the show, that I'm not disappointed that I got denied. That's fine. I can live with that. But my issue is literally not responding to emails for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It really takes you that long to respond to an email? It's pretty unprofessional, in my opinion. So, yeah, Inter Miami, blunder of the week. And I'll be curious to see how that club does once Messi and his Barcelona buddies wind up leaving MLS. But to end the show on a positive note, again, Jose, I appreciate you joining the show. I appreciate you just the hard work you do. And yeah, this is probably one of our longest shows that we've done together. And it's always a pleasure interacting with the chat. A lot of great questions, a lot of great questions. People ask a lot of great comments, and they make the show. But Jose, where people want to read your Messi piece, where people want to read your work at MLSsoccer.com and following on social media, all that jazz, where can people follow you?
You can find me on Twitter mainly, though. I thank you, Eric, who's on this. I want to give him a special shout out, Eric Svetson, who turned me to a website that allows me to cross post between Blue Sky and Twitter. It's been a game changer. Sometimes a little slow, but nonetheless, I try my best to satisfy both audiences. So Eric, thank you. So you can find me on Twitter at Jose R. Nuñez 91. And certainly every week, just about every week, I tend to get a named piece on MLSsoccer.com, which I still pinch myself about. And then ultimately, take a look at my Substack, linked within my profiles across social media. I had a really fun time covering a team that's very near and dear to my heart in terms of Reading United AC. I grew up near the Reading area and been to a couple of their games. And when they invited me over to come and check out their kit launch, as well as the launch of their philanthropic foundation, it was sort of, again, another pinch me moment where like, oh man, I used to watch this team as a fan disappear out of my life just out of busyness, moving away from the area, and have worked so hard to do what I've done now with reporting, that they invited me to come and cover the team. And that specific event was one of those moments where like, oh my goodness, and just such a fun time. And the kits are actually really, really cool. So take a look at them. I posted about them on Twitter. But ultimately, thank you all for all your support. And we'll see. I applied for FIFA Club World Cup games. So between Philadelphia and Seattle, we'll see what games they come through and what my travel looks like around the summer.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to leave comments in the show descriptions to check out those two pieces by Jose. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel live, every single podcast on YouTube. Also, goals breakdown videos. Goals breakdown video is not out yet for this game. That'll be out Monday night, Tuesday morning. YouTube.com/freekickpod to go ahead and check that out. And check out the freekick.substack.com for my writing, podcasts, and goals breakdown videos all in one place. But we got to end the show with this, right? There's two comments. We were talking about Jim Curtin maybe 20, 30 minutes ago. Comment here says, I'd lose both my legs to see Jim manage the Union again. Man, that's crazy. So maybe Jim Curtin's going to spare you and say, yeah, I'm not coming back so you don't lose your legs. Another comment here says, bro, I miss Jim's press conferences so bad. Listen to almost everyone. Messaged him recently and told him so. And I think, everybody here, Jose and I talked about it. We miss Jim Curtin, so personable. And we talked about opening day at the beginning of the show. It would not surprise me if Jim Curtin winds up going to opening day tomorrow. And maybe some of you guys run into him. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.